Hi, and thank you for watching Missouri Viewpoints, the program dedicated to the civil and informed discussion of the social, political, and economic issues that affect us all. I'm Mike Ferguson, and once again, we're coming to you from the Hard Bean Cafe in downtown Grandview. Well, the election year is here. The elections are right around the corner, it seems. And that means a whole new slew of candidates running for office at all levels. This week's guest is running for the Missouri State House of Representatives, specifically in the 39th District in Kansas City. Lance Weber is the Libertarian candidate for that seat. Lance, thank you for being on the program.
Thank you, Mike.
Lance, you've got a successful law practice here in the Kansas City area. What motivated you to throw your hat in the political ring and run for statewide office?
Well, I think what really motivated me was I was inspired by the presidential candidate Ron Paul. Reading about him back in the 70s, when all of his contemporaries were tuning in, turning on, and dropping out, Ron Paul decided to get busy and run for office. Rather than just complain about things, he decided he was going to put action to it and try to make a difference. I noticed that personally I've been doing a lot of complaining over the past 5 or 6 years, and that wasn't doing me any good, and it's not doing anybody any good in my district. So I thought that I should run for office in order to try to affect change. Like Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world.
You mentioned Ron Paul. We've discussed his campaign on this program before. He's running for president as a Republican, obviously, but he's also brought tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people into the political process who weren't necessarily there before. While supporting Ron Paul, they may not necessarily support the Republican Party. What would you have to say to Ron Paul supporters when it comes to looking at the Libertarian Party?
Well, I think the most attractive thing about the Libertarian Party to me is that their party platform remains consistent. Most noticeably, it's published right now. It's available easily on the internet. You can find it just by simply Googling Libertarian Party platform. As compared to the Democratic or Republican Party platforms, you can't really find out what they're all about until after their national convention. I think what's most striking about party politics today, and it may not have been this way 10 or 15 years ago, say, are that politicians frequently jump from party to party. Chris Koster is one example. Over on the Kansas side, Paul Morrison is another example. To me, that just illustrates that there really isn't that much difference between the two major political parties. So I find inspiration from the Libertarian Party, and frankly, those principles, I think, are principles that we can all agree on. Smaller government, low taxes, educational opportunities for all, and frankly, the message of don't hold the gun to my head to take my money so that you can go out and do good with it.
Libertarians obviously have not won a state legislative or a statewide race in Missouri. Now, there have been Libertarian victories in other parts of the country. Why should voters of the 39th District consider a Libertarian candidate when they go to vote in November?
Well, specifically, I think the voters of the 39th Legislative District ought to consider voting for me as a Libertarian candidate because my goal is to make the 39th Legislative District the most well-informed district in the entire state of Missouri. Additionally, I'd like to make it the most well-represented district in the state. That means that I need to build a mechanism whereby my constituents can communicate with me easily and whereby I can communicate with my constituents to advise them of what's going on in Jefferson City and how what is going on in Jefferson City directly affects their lives. As far as Libertarian over Democrat or Republican, the current economic situation in our country and in our state, all signs are that we're heading into a recession. The Libertarians prize personal property rights over all else, basically. That is fundamentally the most serious issue to our personal security is our personal prosperity. So I think the focus on economics and economic issues is really what should convince people to vote for Libertarians as opposed to Democrats or Republicans.
Okay, now let's talk about some of the top issues that we do see in the headlines every day. Obviously, the last couple of years, what's dominated Missouri headlines has been health care. What priority, how should the state government approach health care? What role should the state government have in health care in the state?
Well, ideally, the government should have very little to do with health care. Realistically, when we're walking down the street, for example, and we see someone that needs help, each one of us has an individual personal responsibility to help that person. We as a community through our representatives, the legislatures, can decide that we want to form a group to assist underprivileged or needy individuals, and that's apparently what we've done here in Missouri. The current healthcare crisis, I think, is a result of more paperwork being created and more hurdles for people to jump through rather than less. I think it would be ideal for the state government to facilitate the provision of medical services and medical care to underprivileged and needy folks by supporting, say, alternative medicines, easing the restrictions on midwifery, easing the restrictions on chiropractors and herbalists. There's a move right now to regulate all supplements, including vitamin C. The benefits of vitamin C go back for a long time, and it's pretty well undisputable that you can't overdose from vitamin C. Vitamin C only helps you physically. Your body naturally sheds any excess vitamin C that you get. Yet under new regulations, we'd be prohibited from even purchasing vitamin C without a prescription. So I think less regulation instead of more is the answer to Missouri's healthcare problems.
Another issue that's very emotional and very controversial, obviously, is that of illegal immigration. The governor has directed the Highway Patrol to be on the lookout for illegal immigrants. The state is working now with the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, regarding raids on, agricultural plants, manufacturing plants around the state. How should the state government be involved in the issue of illegal immigration, and what impact does that have on Missourians all over the state?
Well, it's a very difficult issue because the feds have preempted the states on the deportation issue. What can Missouri do when we come into contact with illegal aliens? Personally, I think it's a good idea anytime any law enforcement officer comes across any criminal that they should apprehend that criminal and process them accordingly. However, in the situation with illegal immigrants, the duty of the state police is to turn them over to the feds. From my understanding, the feds don't really do much from that point on. A possible solution might be to propose to deport all these illegal immigrants to Washington, D.C. That may sound radical, but it might be just enough to get the attention of the feds and get them to wake up that there really is a problem in the states. Each state should have the right to deport anyone from their state boundaries who is in violation of their laws. Now, it's not specifically a violation of Missouri law for an illegal alien to enter into the United States. However, it is clearly a violation of federal law, and there are many federal laws that, when they're violated, the state authorities will pick these people up immediately. So I don't see why it should be any different for illegal immigration.
Okay, and Lance, we are just about out of time. Thank you for coming down to Grandview and being on the program. I hope you'll come back as the election draws a little bit nearer. And once again, thank you for watching Missouri Viewpoints. When you come to Grandview, come down to the Hard Bean Cafe. Try Becca's Magic Tea. It'll soothe your vocal cords and clear your sinuses like it did for me today. We'll see you next week. Thanks.